Welcome everyone to the Access the Text webinar for August 2023. Today, I'm really excited to have David Winbanks here, the lead product manager for UC Xpress. Now, David is going to go through and David is going to go through and talk about a deep dive into UC Xpress. Now, Dave has been working with us for over 12 months now, and he has been heavily involved in getting UC Xpress onboarded through the selection process, then through being able to get the product together, make sure that it was a fit for purpose product, then work on actually getting it capable of doing what we required it to do within the market, and then productizing that, and then working with the dev team to make sure that we delivered all the capability that was available when the product went live. So we also have Mitch online as well, who is going to take questions and answers. Now, we will wait to the end for questions and answers today, but please put your questions and answers in the Q&A box at the bottom in Zoom, and we will answer them at the end, and we can ask Dave directly, and he can answer those questions straight away. So I'll hand over to Dave now, and he will talk through the agenda.
Thanks, John. Really good to be here today, and really excited to talk about UC Xpress. So I may not know all of you yet, so I just wanted to briefly introduce myself. So I've had a long history in service providers for mostly telco, but ISPs as well, and probably most recently at Macquarie Telecom and Vocus before that. And so, yeah, I've been developing hosted PBX offerings in the market for a long time. Which started off with IronNet and then Vocus, Commander, and so forth. So I have a very good knowledge of Broadworks, having been working with that platform for over 12 years. So yeah, it was exciting to come aboard to UC Xpress and into Access 4. And as John said, I've been here for probably about 18 months now, or just shy of 18 months. So and yeah, when I came aboard, I thought, great, UC Xpress, Access 4 is all about Broadworks, and I just then need to go and understand how SaaSBOSS works. But shortly after starting here, I was tasked with a job to look at UC Xpress and bring that to market. So totally new platform, and probably not what I was expecting when I signed up, but it's been a great ride. So today we wanted to take you through exactly what that process was and how we went about it. So we'll start off with ideation and conceptualization. So this is how how Xpress came to be and why we developed UC Xpress and what kind of challenges that it addressed in the market. Then we'll look at bringing the product to life. So this is where we actually do a lot of our work as product managers, bringing new products to market. So we'll go through, give you a bit of a glimpse into the life of a product manager and how we brought this UC Xpress product to market. Then overcoming hurdles. Obviously, with any project, there's always hurdles to overcome, and so we'll go through some of those things that threw up at us and how we overcome those. And then we'll talk about the user-centric approach that we have at Access 4 and how that makes a difference to the products that we bring to market. So let's dive into ideation and conceptualization. So as I said, I started here in April 2021, and one of the first jobs that I had was to look at competitors. So do a competitor analysis and look what's in the market and look for any gaps for our Broadworks offering. We knew that some partners had lost deals to some other competitors like 3CX, Yaystar, and other providers. And so what we did, we went about looking at the competitor market, and we did a product breakdown, feature comparison, and then that led us to SWOT analysis, so strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. And we also did a commercial comparison of those offers in the market. As part of that, we also conducted lots of interviews with our partners. So we're lucky at Access 4 to have lots of great partners to work with, and we I guess took some partners aside. So Newtech, Comwire IT, Segcom, and Expert, And we had some interviews around what they saw as some of the gaps in our Broadworks offering and where there might be gaps in the market that we're not addressing as we could be. From that, we developed an options paper. So we presented an options paper back to the exec team, and we had basically 5 strategies that were presented across how we could compete in the market with or better position ourselves in the market against some of these other competitor offerings. So that's kind of the high level of what we went through in ideation and conceptualization. You can see here, this is a bit of a mind map, but we basically went through, we did a bit of a brainstorm and came up with some questions to ask partners, and we went through all of those partner interviews and recorded all those. We basically distilled those down into some, I guess, key features or opportunities that we had and some key threats as well. And then we put a pack together, and we also looked at the market. So we know we have lots of SIP trunks that we provide to customers as well. We had a look at what they were connected to in terms of end users, on-premise PBXs or other. And we noticed that we do have quite a large customer base, even though hosted PBX has been around for a long time. And people have been very swiftly moving to hosted PBX offerings. We still have a lot of laggards in the market. We call them laggards because they are slow to adopt new technology. We have a lot of people who have assets, on-premise PBXs that they've bought maybe 5-10 years ago, and they're just now just paying for the SIP trunks and the core usage. And they're very hard to move to a Broadworks offering where it's a per user per month sort of subscription offering, if they're not looking for some of the new and value-added features that Broadworks brings over their on-premise PBX. With the event of COVID, that quite changed the marketplace, and there was another big push to hosted. So we had a look at some of those on-premise systems and what was stopping people from moving to hosted as well. So we came up with basically some key things that we found out from all of that research and information. So the first of all, that there was a part of the market that was really wedded to that per simultaneous call charging model. So whether it's an on-premise PBX where you're only paying for the SIP trunks, so you're just paying for the calls basically, or you've got a system like 3CX, which is basically sold under that commercial construct of per simultaneous call as opposed to per user per month. And we thought that was one of the key, I guess, opportunities that we saw in the market, was to, I guess, have a product that attacked that area. So the other one was around the features that are included. Obviously with Broadworks, it's a very complex and quite high-ranging feature set in Broadworks. And there's different tiers of licensing that have been in Broadworks for a long time. So depending on the features that you want and the value-added services, you pay differently. Whereas what they liked about some of the other offerings was that all of the features were included, and they didn't have to pay anything additional if they forgot to add a call center or they forgot to add a user. It didn't throw them back into the sales cycle. So that was one of the key things. So, basically lots of features included. And the key features for a base service was around, having BLF, not paying extra for that, having a soft phone that was included, just a basic soft phone, not anything too crazy. And there was a lot of customers who just needed a soft phone, didn't need all of that collaboration and screen sharing and all of that kind of information. So they weren't, I guess, attracted by Teams or WebEx. They just wanted a basic soft phone. And the other thing was around call centers, is about having a similar user experience on the mobile soft phone as on the desktop soft phone. So being able to log in and out of call queues and then have some basic call reporting functionality around call centers. So that was around the features included. And I've touched a little bit about the easy sell-through, and that is basically that you can quote upfront and know that that's pretty much going to be the price whether or not they add an additional handset that they forgot in the sales process, or they added an additional hunt group or a call center. And those things can really slow down the sales process. So that sell through was very important, being able to sell with sort of cost assurity, knowing that if there's a little bit of give and take in the provisioning side, it didn't actually throw them back into the sales cycle. So easy sell through was the other one. And then basically market fit. So there are parts of the market who have a high number of handsets or required to have a high number of handsets and make very few calls. And with the per user per month model of Broadworks, you end up paying for a lot of users who don't actually use the phones that much. So that really talks to the commercial challenge as well of the Broadworks model. So really we're looking for going back to that simultaneous call charging model. And then what we also looked at was some of the drawbacks of competitor offerings in the market. So we knew that 3CX was quite popular with a lot of MSPs, and so we looked at that one in detail as well as some others. But yeah, one of the major drawbacks around that was as being a multi-instance proposition. So having to spin up an instance for every customer and then attaching the SIP trunks to that, and then also managing all of the hardware and the devices yourselves. Not only that, you have to have a infrastructure available for that instance as well. So you have to have some hosting, some security around that, and then you have to connect your SIP trunks. And there was a lot of overheads that come with multi-instance kind of sell-through from competitors, whether that's on-premise or in the cloud. And that is one of the key things that people were attracted to Access 4 was having a multi-tenanted offering in Broadworks. Makes it so much easier and reduces overheads and extra on costs. The other thing that partners were concerned about was having a vendor that was also selling direct to the public. So this is, I guess, a risk to their whole business opportunity, and selling direct to customers is something that they didn't like about some of the other competitors that were out there. And then also the ability to scale, and that goes back to this multi-instance as well. Having to manage multi-instances becomes unmanageable over time. The more you get, the more instances you have, and you have to keep monitoring them, making sure they're secure, and then upgrading and changing capacity is also problematic where it doesn't sort of flow through. You have to kind of upgrade the system. Maybe the hosting platform needs upgrading as well. In terms of memory and capacity, and then the system itself, and then the SIP trunk capacity as well. So it's very clunky to kind of manage and scale a business when it's not sort of integrated and seamless. And then other risks that are associated with that. So having to make sure that all of those environments were safe and secure for their customers. And that they weren't vulnerable to attack from the outside. So lots of MSPs having to spend more and more time making sure that their security patches are all updated around their voice infrastructure. Whereas what partners like about Access 4 is that all of that is taken care of for them. So it's hosted in a multi-tenant environment, purpose-built for voice, and we have engineers monitoring that day and night and making sure that there is multi-carrier connectivity as well. So not only is the hosting environment secure and geographically redundant, that there's carrier redundancy as well. So if perchance a carrier went down or was offline, we could switch the usage of the traffic to another carrier, which wasn't possible with some of those competitor offerings out there. So reliability and end-to-end support was something that Access 4 has become famous for around voice, and knowing that everything is just rock solid, and they weren't as confident with the other providers out there in the market. And when we're talking about end-to-end support, we're talking about from system to support in sales and pre-sales, but also support if there's tickets that need to be logged and looked at. And then support for devices as well. So we're not just selling a PBX, we're selling a full end-to-end service, which comes with supported devices that we're happy to work with you to deploy and maintain and upkeep. So basically that all comes to basically one throat to choke. So we, as Access 4, have that single provider for everything end to end for the service. So out of all of that research, we did present a pack back to the exec, and we had a number of different strategies that we could take. And to my surprise and delight, the hardest was to go out there and find an alternate vendor to provide a per simultaneous call model. So it's probably the riskiest, and it was the hardest, but it was also the one that was selected. And then a very, very challenging sort of time frame was put forward as well. So that led us to bringing the product to life. So I just wanted to go through basically what the timeline looked at. So I guess May 22 was the options paper and the analysis that we did on the market. And then during June and July, we went out to market and looked at a few different vendors that were out there that could possibly provide an environment, a platform that was multi-tenanted and per simultaneous call and provided hit all the key points that we had out of our market research. So yeah, we engaged a number of vendors and looked at basically comparing those and looking at the criteria that we had and how basically assessing them against that. That took place during August and September. And we had lots of good support from Kartik in John's team to go through and look at all the features that are available on these platforms and do a pretty good and thorough assessment of the features that were available to make sure that they met the needs of our partners. So that was also a lot of work, and that was presented back in the form of a pack around sort of the strengths of the platforms, the features that were key that were either there or missing, and also some of the other things that we absolutely needed were having those APIs, being able to integrate APIs into the SaaSBOSS platform that you're all familiar with. We didn't want partners to have to retrain all of their staff when UC Xpress came to market. So they were key. So we did spend a lot of time in assessment, probably went a little bit over what we planned, but we wanted to make sure that it was thorough. And that kind of led us to select one vendor in particular. And then we also had to look at the contract negotiations. We had to look at the product structure and the commercials around that to make sure it was going to provide a good commercial outcome for our partners and be a sustainable business opportunity for ourselves as well. And then so that went over in October and November, and we also started building all of the infrastructure inside of Access 4 that would be needed to host all of the new platform. So a lot of engineering work went into getting the servers, getting the internet interconnects connected, and getting all of the software installed and stood up and tested, and then all of the carrier interconnects. So that took us through October and November. During that time, we had access to an eval situation as well from the vendor. So we started working on some of the documentation, some of the feature comparisons, and also building out some of the API capability, or assessing the API compatibility with SaaSBOSS, and looking at the billing constructs as well. So that gave us a little bit of a head start where we went into sort of that December to July period where it was all about, design, build, and deploy. That was a very challenging time. So one of the things that we did early in the piece was looked at the items that were negotiable and non-negotiable, and we call those sliders, and we can slide whatever attribute up and down, whether they're, you know, more negotiable or less negotiable. So one item that was a key non-negotiable was time frame. So we had a pretty ambitious time frame to launch in July in 2023, and that left us with basically 6 to 7 months to really get all of the development done. And we knew we wanted to do beta testing as well with our partners. So yeah, so that was a very tricky time. We basically had to go through all of the features that are available in SaaSboss. One of the sliders was around familiarity with partners, so we didn't have to retrain them. And so we wanted this product to be multi-tenanted and look and feel very similar to what they're using today in SaaSboss for Broadworks. So we basically went through menu by menu, item by item, and documented between all of those features, how they would work, and if there was a comparable feature in this vendor's product platform, or if we would still need one to be developed, and or if it was just not available at all. And then we also prioritize them in terms of, you know, are they mandatory for launch, or are they nice to have for launch and mandatory for beta and post-beta and launch and post-launch, etc. So that was really helpful, but it took a long time. And yeah, we got stuck into the build as well. And then, yeah, during that time, we also wanted to run beta. So that was probably one of the challenges that we faced. So we actually decided to run beta, not waiting for everything to be developed and then running beta at the end in a kind of a linear fashion. We kind of ran that in parallel towards the end. And we had some really great beta partners from, yeah, you know, Comwire, Baycom, VoIP Solutions, Segcom, Viatech, Precision IT, Broadcom, you know, Comms Plus, etc. So they all helped us do a lot of post QA testing. So we did all the internal QA testing, and then they of course did a lot of beta testing as well. But we ran that in stages to get to launch, and did a lot of the fixes that came out from that as well. So that touches a little bit about on that kind of user-centric design philosophy that we have to make sure that our partners have input into that design and development process, and have input into what the final product looks like. And then, yeah, but prior to that, we were also doing all of the documentation, so training, marketing material, metrics, reporting, billing, agreements, etc., and looking at the branding. So that probably was one of the challenging points, is coming up with the branding. So yeah, that was, I guess, the bringing the product to life and all that we had to do during that time. It was very, very challenging period just because of the number of features that we had to develop. And so that brings us to the hurdles. So some of the hurdles that we overcome, and how did we do that? So I guess one of the main ones that we talked about was a very short or ambitious time frame. So that one, we basically focused a lot of the internal resources on getting UC Xpress done. We had Tim, from the top down. We had lots of exec sponsorship, and we ran project meetings every week to make sure that we were on track. And so Tim did a great job of chairing that meeting and making sure that all the teams were revved up, and we have all the resources that we needed. And we kind of had to manipulate or move around some other priorities within the business to meet the time frame, which we did. So one of the other challenges was the documentation from the vendor was probably, we're used to having very good documentation from the likes of Broadworks, have been running a platform for a long time. And we knew going to market with a new vendor, you know, probably wouldn't have that level of documentation, and would probably be less mature. And we did find that. So some of the vendor documentation didn't have everything documented as well as we would like. And so that made it difficult to really develop everything how we would. We basically had to go in and work out how things worked before that we started developing our product and APIs into that. Also the vendor APIs. So we were sold very much on a sales pitch that, you know, everything that we could see that worked in the portal from the vendor actually had APIs that were behind it as well. And that was very largely true, but however, not all the APIs are documented. So we did have to discover how those APIs worked, and that took a bit longer than we intended as well. The other thing was international timeframes. So another hurdle that we have had to overcome. So also during the assessment stage, but also in the development stage, having the vendor based in different places throughout the globe. So some in the US and some in the UK. So yeah, it's difficult aligning all of that timing with our teams as well. So yeah, one of the key challenges I think was knowing that we have Broadworks, we also have SaaSboss, and then we have the vendor's product for UC Xpress. And we had to kind of meld all of those three to get a really good working solution in SaaSboss that was familiar to partners. So that was probably the key challenge. And there was lots of design sprints and workshops, and I guess mapping all of those features out and how we would present them as well. We really set on one of those sliders that were not so negotiable, was to have it very familiar looking in SaaSboss. So really we were getting the vendors portal and the vendors features and kind of fitting them into SaaSboss. And with that came a lot of flexibility and a lot of improvements that we could make, but also a lot of challenges as well. It's not as easy as just flicking out the vendors portal and saying, go knock yourselves out. So that was probably the key challenge for the project. And hopefully we've done a good job, and it all looks very familiar to you when you go in and use SaaSboss, either for Broadworks or UC Xpress. There should be a lot of parity in terms of features and how they work. As I said, we had competing projects, so we didn't just have this project going. We are very ambitious at Access 4, so we have lots of different projects going at the one time. So as I said, we kind of had to move resources around to do that. And then one of the greatest challenges, I guess, getting to the end and getting to launch and thinking, yes, we've kind of made that sprint. We're all very tired. And then post-launch, we discovered a limitation with ring groups and how they were implemented in the vendors platform, which kept us up for a number of nights post-launch. And we had, you know, teams from our engineering department and developers and myself in the product team and the vendor as well. And we've really seen the vendor come to market and be very flexible and work with us, which is one of the key things that we're looking for from a vendor. Is to be sort of very agile and would work with us to develop things and fix things if we saw them that needed done. So yeah, that was another good experience in the end, bringing, I guess, overcoming that limitation with ring groups post. I think in all, overcoming hurdles, I think it helped to have executive sponsorship from the organization, from the top down, knowing that this was a priority for the business. It helped get those hurdles overcome. Working with smart people, so Access 4 employs lots of smart people in engineering and development. So I was very happy to be working with them. And the other thing was just people who are willing to put in the hard yards and just work tirelessly to get the product to market. So I guess it was just grit that got us to overcome these hurdles, and just that attitude of being persistent and not giving up, and making sure that we get a product to market that's fit for purpose and fits the market that we're after. So yeah, that's pretty much how we came to market with UC Xpress. I wanted to touch briefly on the user-centric approach, and I've talked about those a little bit as we go, but we started off with partner interviews and really understanding what it is, the needs of our partners and their end customers, so that we weren't developing something that we just thought was a good idea. Really, it was about that user-centric approach and engaging with partner and our partner community from the start. The other thing is, we wanted to make sure that users who were very familiar with SaaSBOSS didn't have to be retrained. And so it was probably easier for them to adopt a new product if it had lots of familiarity in the UI and the menu structure, etc. So that's another part of the user-centric approach that we took. And we also gained partner feedback at lots of different points along the journey. So putting the commercial planning together, we saw feedback from a number of partners on, yes, this is where we're thinking, this is what the packages are going to look like, and this is roughly where we think the pricing needs to be. And yeah, we had some really good open and honest and candid feedback from partners, and it was really great to work with partners who are valuable and valuable to us, and also really want to see themselves, but also us succeed. So it really is a partnership, which is one of the things that I really enjoy about working at Access 4. And then, as I said, the partner beta testing. So we had lots of partners involved in beta testing the services as we brought them to market. And that was one of the challenges that we had as well, is knowing that we had a time frame and really sort of releasing beta tests in different tranches of features that were available to test. So yeah, partners did really good job in their patience and not sort of running ahead and trying to test everything, but just testing those things that we were releasing at that time. It was really good to have their feedback and incorporate that into the development and launch in the end. And then we did a lot of work around end customer personas. So what were the key unique selling proposition of this product compared to Broadworks when we go to market, and what were the key markets for this product, and how would partners be able to decide when to sell Broadworks or when to sell UC Xpress? So we did a lot of work around that, a lot of work from our product marketing team and marketing teams around defining those end product personas. So yeah, all I can say is I'm really grateful to be working with a great partner community at Access 4, and really having that user-centric approach makes us successful in the market as well. So that pretty much brings us to the end of what I had presented, ready to show. But happy to take any questions, or if there's any questions that I haven't covered, certainly be happy to hear from you.
Yeah, Mitch, I know you've sent me a message and said that there are 0 questions so far, but have there been any more that have come on, or has anyone got any questions that they want to ask? And Mitch will put them through to us.
Nothing's come through just yet.
Well, we'll give it a couple of minutes, and then if we get nothing, we'll finish off.
Yeah, no problem. I can talk a little bit about where we're at now. So that was probably the lead up to launch. So while you're thinking about some questions to ask, yeah, I guess we basically had to look at all of the features and prioritize what was mandatory for beta and mandatory for launch. And we, with the time frame that was unmovable, we had to make some tough decisions around prioritizing those features that were really key to this product. So yeah, we did that, and we still have a roadmap of activity post-launch that we're getting through as well. So,
did you want to show that at all?
Yeah, I can show you that.
Let me flick across.
Sure. So
we'll just need to drag it.
Okay.
Drag this.
Yeah, and
excellent.
Easy.
Cool.
Okay, great. So this is our post-launch priority list. So we go through this weekly, and we do have partners that come to us and say, look, I've got this deal, but I really need this feature that didn't make it in for launch. Can we reprioritize that? So we bump those up in terms of the priorities. So if you're out there selling and you have a big deal that needs a particular feature that hasn't made it into the product yet, please talk to your PGMs or come through TAC or through your solutions consultants, and we can prioritize those. So One of those was, high density ATA support. So this one's actually been launched now. A lot of these top ones are launched now as well. So the queue timeout settings, the default audio for core part keys, and the one that we've just recently released this week is the ability to show the ring group and call center names on inbound calls. So you don't actually just get presented the caller ID, you actually know which ring group or call center it comes from. So they were some that were sort of escalated from our partners, and as well as alternate numbers. And we've been able to release them now into market. So what we do have is the priority after that. So we're currently working on night switch. So that's the ability for end customers to have a manual button on their phone to send their hunt group or their IVR, their call center, into busy mode or night switch mode. So that's has been designed, but we need to put it into production. So there's lots of development needs to happen in the next sprint. And so, yeah, this list continues to grow as we get requests from customers, but we also have in here things that we know that we wanted to develop, but that were coming after or post-launch. That was so that we could get a product to market that fits the need, and then we can continue to iterate and develop and bring more and more features or functionality to that product over time.
Mitch, any questions?
Yes, we have had one question come in. More a bit of a feedback than a question. It's more so, can the issues register that's being shared through AHA have the items that have been shipped removed, so that way only the in progress option issues are seen? Is that possible?
Yeah, we can do that. We did think about doing that initially. What we've decided to is move them to the bottom so that people can see that if they're looking for a particular feature, that it actually has been launched. So yes, we will move them to the bottom. We can't put a break in, so it'll just have all of the coming features, and then at the bottom it'll have all the shipped features, and there'll be a tag next to them saying whether they're in design or in development or in internal testing, and or if they're shipped, they'll be green and shipped.
Yep.
So yeah, we did that just with some feedback. Partners do want to be able to see, I guess, quickly go to the bottom and see what other things have been released since they've last had a look at it. So that's the way that we will manage that one.
No problem. And we also got asked, how often are updates being rolled out to UC Xpress?
Yeah, that's a great question. So at the moment, we're running 2-week sprints, and we usually try and get 2 to 3 new features into each sprint. So it depends on the size of the feature. Obviously, there's only so much development time and resources available. But yeah, we've got quite a good roadmap of features that are designed and ready to go into those sprints. So yeah, every 2 weeks you should at least have one or two features come to market. So yeah, we're working very hard to continue to iterate and make UC Xpress as great as possible.
Awesome. That's everything we've had come through.
Brilliant.
All right. Well, thank you, David. Thank you everyone for listening, and thank you for joining us for Access to Text for August. We'll finish it there. I hope you all have a great month.
Thanks for having me, John.
Thanks, Dave.
See ya.